The idea of having one stream of income just didn't sit well with me. Hi, I'm Liv. I run Double Breast, a print and design studio specializing in risograph print, branding, and web design. Running a multi-revenue stream business is something I've always aimed to do. So I chose Wix for my business because of its massive scope for functionality and freedom of creation. I do graphic design, web design, branding, pitches, risograph printing, events and workshops. Service-wise, that's that side of it. And then Doppel Shop, I run a shop creating all sorts of different prints and pins and t-shirts, and a lot of it is collaborative. Community, it's one of the main reasons why I love what I do, because I get to work with all sorts of different people making all sorts of unique things, and Wix as a kind of housing for that was amazing. Being able to integrate and change and develop at my own pace, it was just how it was always going to be.
My son is Braxton, and he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And they said it's an extremely rare cancer. Braxton went in for an 8-hour surgery. We kissed him goodbye.
All right, we're on. Welcome. This is the end of November. It's been a beautiful month talking about the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. Oh my. You can step in here. My name is Dawn Bauer, and this is
Cat.
And it looks like we're gonna just jump into some music here, and I just want to welcome Bill Metz. We've got the Big Love Band is out today. We've got a guest musician today, so give it up for Bill Metz.
Thanks. I'm honored actually to be asked to do this. Thank you. Started in the wrong key. When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the times Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from the water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, having second-rate and hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out how things were changed since then. And everything is holy now. It used to be a world happened there, having second-rate a hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent dare, 'cause everything is holy now.
Beautiful, beautiful. I just want to acknowledge the new faces I see in here. It's so beautiful to see everybody in here. And I was like, oh, it's a little empty today. Maybe people are still like out of town or sleeping from too much turkey or something like that. But you all filled in. So thanks for being here.
Good job.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. You're so kind. We have a lot of announcements, but we're going to just kind of go over them real quick. Today, this is exciting. Today's Potluck Sunday. I know, it's exciting. Stay for the fun and the food and the fellowship. Whether you are here for Thanksgiving or not, join us for partake in our morning blessings of our Potluck Sunday for our community.
And even if you didn't bring any food, please stay. We always have tons of food, so please, please stay. Next up, this Saturday, December 2nd from 9 to 11, please come join us for the next Beautification Day. And there's always different things going on, so whether you can, only sit or whether you want to stand and whether you want to lift heavy things or not, there's always something for you to do to help out. So if you want to come on down on Saturday, that would be great.
Awesome. And there's a lot more announcements in the back table. If you get a chance, you can take a look at those.
To the microphone.
And my voice carries? No.
For the YouTubers.
Okay, go down. The 2024 Spiritual Living Convention, the Wild Dunes Resort in Charleston, South Carolina, is a time soul to soul to soul, lighting up the way of love. Save the date in 2024 for the Spiritual Living Convention, February 19th through the 22nd, 2024 in Charleston, South Carolina. I hear that's beautiful.
It is beautiful. They got Spanish moss hanging down everywhere. It's beautiful. So I went to the last in-person Center for Spiritual Living convention that was in Denver in February 2020.
Oh,
Do you remember what happened right after that? If you don't remember, no, I'm just kidding. So we had no clue, anything that was going on at the time, but it was such a beautiful experience, met so many people from across the country and across the world. People came in. And a lot of unity ministers and practitioners come also because we're so much in alignment with unity. And so that was really beautiful to see too. Lots of smaller like class type things that you could sign up for. And then there was big talks, lots of wonderful music. So I have no doubt that this is going to be just as amazing and probably not going to be a pandemic afterwards. So you'll get to stay in touch with all those people that you meet in person. So
this next announcement is so exciting. I am amazed that the 50th anniversary of the Center for Spiritual Living is upon us. It's exciting, I know. So we have our first planning session. Join us on Zoom Friday, December 1st at noon to 1 as we vision and discuss the beginning stages of our planning for the Center for Spiritual Living's 50th anniversary extravaganza. Please see Melissa Tuff. She's here today. Yay!
wait, Melissa.
Here she is. Please see Melissa after the service for any questions or for some more details.
Jane of all trades back there. She's doing the audio and visual today. So midweek tune-up, so every Wednesday from noon, not every Wednesday.
No, it wasn't last
There's been
Wednesday.
some Wednesdays we haven't done it, but most Wednesdays from noon to 1:30, you can come in and get a little tune-up between Sundays. So you can join us here if weather's nice, which is so gorgeous lately, might be outside.
Weather permitting.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ernest Holmes is the founder of our philosophy, and we teach the universal truths found in all spiritual teachings, both traditional and contemporary. Please visit our website at cslcapecoral.org for more information, upcoming events, to submit a prayer request, or to send us your comments and questions.
And for those of you that were here for the meditation this morning, it was so lovely. John Coriel, one of our practitioners here, did that meditation, and he's now sitting right over there holding the high watch, which means he's holding the high consciousness that everything in the service today and each and every one of us here, everything's unfolding perfectly.
I'm sure with him at the helm, it's a good outcome.
Absolutely.
If you'd like to join me in the blessing today, we could say this together. Let us put our hands together. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. We know who you truly are. You are the spiritual image and likeness of God. We appreciate you, we love you, and we are thankful you are here. Welcome to the center.
What's that? All right, we got Bill Metz back up here singing More Light.
I like it here. This is cool. I like it. Speaking of COVID and that time, I wrote this song during COVID, looking for a little peace of mind. It's called Why I Like It Here. Oh, yeah, that has it as more light. Should I do more light instead? Okay. Doesn't matter. This song is called Why I Like It Here. It's all been said before. It's all being said again. There's times I wonder if 100 years from now, will it make a difference even then? I feel like the earth would be better off if all the humans would just disappear. But then I listen to a John Prine song and I remember why I like it here. I remember why I like it here. People dying from the water they've been drinking. Air so foul we can't catch a breath. While the man's tap dancing for the almighty dollar, he's asking us to waltz with death. Wind and rain blowing out a warning, earth signaling the end is near. But then I look up at the Florida sky and I remember why I like it here. I remember why I like it here. Everything the same today. There ain't nobody listening to nobody, and everybody's got so much to say. And there's a great big propaganda machine spitting out doubt and fear. But then I look into my children's eyes. I remember why I like it here. I remember why I like it here. I remember why I like it here. Thanks.
Beautiful. And I think we're just going to do back-to-back songs. Is that what's happening here? audio-visual people? Okay. All right, so now we're going to hear More Light by Bill Metz.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, where is it? If I have it in here, yeah, I have it. It's funny, I was thinking about not bringing the lyrics from my own song, and Carol, who's my wife sitting there, she said, "Bring it, you're getting old." So I have them. This is about legacy. A friend lost everything, absolutely everything, in Ian. He's a musician, had recorded hundreds of songs he had recorded, lost all of the words, lost all of his recordings, lost his machines with the hard drive. And he moved his car to a house, higher ground, and a tree fell on it. And he was thinking about legacy, he was wondering about leaving his music legacy for his kids, and I started thinking about that. So that's what kind of this song is about. It's called More Light. More light, less darkness on the paths that I now tread. More joy, less sorrow when my spirit is flown and this tired old body lay dead. More giving, less taking, more faith than fear, more trust than doubt, oh God. More light, less darkness on the paths where my feet have trod. I do not know if when I pass that I'll be able to look back on this life that I'm living here on earth, to see the fruits from the seeds that I have sown without thinking since the days of my birth. All the ripples from the stones that I have thrown willy-nilly into the eternal sea. But if I could, I know exactly what I would hope and pray to see. More light, less darkness on the paths that I now tread. More joy, less sorrow when my spirit is flown and this tired old body lay dead. More giving, less taking, more faith than fear, more trust than doubt, oh God. More light, less darkness on the paths where my feet have trod. Standing at the gate or walking through a tunnel toward a light on that fateful day, or meeting some great winged spiritual being to guide me on my way, or floating along on some ethereal wind carrying me to who the heck knows where. When my life flashes before my eyes, there's but one thing I want to see there. More light, less darkness on the paths that I now tread. More joy, less sorrow when my spirit is flown and this tired old body lay dead. More giving, less taking, more faith than fear, more trust than doubt, oh God. More light, less darkness on the paths where my feet have trod. More light, less darkness on the paths where my feet have trod. Thanks.
Give it up for Bill. That song reminded me of, I can't remember what I was listening to one time. I don't know if it was an audiobook or a podcast, and they were talking about how there is no such thing as darkness. There's just always a spectrum of light. And so darkness is just the absence of, or it's so minimal we can't maybe see the spectrum of light, right, that it appears to be dark. So it's the both and. It's the both and. So join us for Fun Friday, December 8th from 6 to 8. There's a holiday cookie exchange. Last year, there's a lot of cookies, a lot of different cookies, and there's a tree trimming going on. There's a beautiful picture of us. You can barely see it, but that's a picture of everybody that came last year. And I remember my son Sam and Don Mole were sitting in the back. Those two seats right there where you gentlemen are sitting, the cookies were all lined up back there, and they one by one took one cookie at a time and had a conversation about, was this cookie, which was the best cookie? They just sat there and they ate all the cookies. So you can do the same if you want to, if you need some extra sugar. So at this time, we're gonna let the kiddos head on back, have some fun back there. Thanks for coming. Look at that, we're gonna have a party back there. I'll have to get more chairs. More chairs from, let's give it up for the kids. Our kids program is growing every day, every week, which is very exciting. So let me introduce myself as today's reader. Giving you the reading today. Do it. The Jane of all trades, just like Melissa. Thank you, Alex. I love you too. So as this week we're wrapping up this mundane, sacred, profane, oh my, the oh my is, oh my, they're all one, they're all the same, they're all from the same. And so wanted to read a little passage from, the one and only Science of Mind textbook by Ernest Holmes, our founder. There's so many texts we can pull from, and I just really felt called to just go right back to the Science of Mind here as we talk about the oneness. There is but one mind. Here's the point. Everything we experience, touch, taste, handle, and smell, environment, bodies, conditions, money, happiness, friends, all are effects. Take that in. It is clear that the infinite and limitless possibilities of that one of which man is a part, or woman. This is an old textbook, so I'm going to read it how it is, but just know he meant person. He meant human. Depend in man's expression upon his own concept. If he is a point of personality and limitless mind, which he is, and if all his life must be drawn from this one mind, which it must be, there cannot be anything else. Can there? If there is nothing else, if there is nothing to move save mind, capital M, and if man is a thinking center in mind, nothing is going to happen to him that does not happen through him, whether it be the result of his own erroneous conclusions, those of his grandfather, or those of the race to which he belongs. This is not in any sense fatalistic, for we may change the trend of causation which has been set in motion at any time we decide to do so. I'm going to read that part again. It's in bold. We may change the trend of causation which has been set in motion at any time we decide to do so. So it's just a choice. Everything comes from intelligence. There is nothing but unity. There is nothing but freedom. There is nothing but completeness. There is nothing but totality. This isn't in here, but there's nothing but light. I was saying that earlier. Begin at the beginning and reason this out time after time until all doubt disappears. It is necessary that each one of us do this for him or herself. Such is the power of right thinking that it cancels and erases everything unlike itself. It answers every question, solves all problems, is the solution to every difficulty. It is like the sunlight of eternal truth bursting through the clouds of obscurity and bathing all light in a celestial glory. It is the absolute with which we are dealing and nothing less. And so just taking this reading in, invite you to close your eyes. Before we go into this time of prayer, just bringing to mind a situation, a person who might need a little more light right now. And as we hold them in our thoughts, knowing that it is all God, it is all the one mind, that spiritual truth, that we are all one with the Creator, whatever we call that, Spirit, universe, God, divine, there are many names. And knowing that all is well. There is just a spectrum of light ever occurring. But it is all light. It is all good. And just knowing that we have the power to lean into that law and choose differently, should life be unfolding in a way that we don't want it to. We can co-create with that source. And I'm so grateful to know that we are all gathered here today in the name of love, knowing that Reverend Chris is going to bring forth a beautiful message for us today, as he always does. It's exactly what we need to hear to bring us and remind us of that oneness. I'm so grateful for this truth and releasing these words into the law, knowing they are done. And so it is. And now, for the great and powerful Oz. You kind of look like Oz, okay? He could be Oz, right? Here is Reverend Chris. Put your hands together.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and good morning. I'm going to go off camera for 1 second because I had one other idea. Nope, that there might be batteries over there for the clicker because, we have no clicker today, but Mel's doing great. Yep, nope, wrong size. No, those are the wrong size, but thank you. All right, so welcome, everybody. The mundane, the sacred, the profane. Oh, my, we get to wrap it all up. And I thought today, to kind of kick it all off, I was going to, I'll ask Mel for a slide. Started off with this December 1st is the 68th anniversary of when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus. And I found a quote from hers, and it says, "Prayer in the Bible became a part of everyday thoughts and beliefs. I learned to put my trust in God and to seek Him as my strength." Right in alignment with the science of mind. Granted, we don't necessarily always use the Bible, but we do sometimes reference the Bible because there is no doubt spiritual truths to be found there. But prayer is something that we are big on. Everyday thoughts and beliefs. That's why we call it, Center for Spiritual Living, because we live these truths. It's day in, day out. Of course, we forget sometimes, but the more that we practice, the more that we get to experience the gifts of it. And then going on, she said, "I learned to put my trust in God and seek Him as my strength." So Ernest Holmes, we quote him very often when he says, there's a power in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. It says, "See Him as my strength," she said. So people who have done amazing things, courageous things that took, immense bravery of even sometimes risk to ourselves, to our reputations, to who we are. They're drawing on something that's bigger. And that's why I love this philosophy so much, is because I have experienced it and seen it in my life, that when I find myself seemingly at the end of my rope, or seemingly to tackle some sort of a challenge, when I remind myself, okay, I don't know if I can do this on my own, that's what my cue is, oh yeah, I don't have to. There's something here within me that we are able to tap into just by our intention and our attention. And that's that thing that's greater than us. And I have to take my hat off to Rosa Parks for showing us what's possible when we stand in our convictions and what we believe in. So I'm going to go next to a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, as Mel advances the slide. And he says, "Each thought, each action in the sunlight of awareness becomes sacred." So as we were talking about the mundane, and then the sacred, and then the profane, what makes the profane and the mundane become sacred? And it's really our awareness, the sunlight of our awareness. So what Thich Nhat Hanh here is speaking about, I love Thich Nhat Hanh, he's one of my favorite teachers, Vietnamese Buddhist monk, was an amazing soul. He left this plane just a few years ago. But that awareness is simply referred to, like in academic circles, as mindfulness. It's become very mainstream and very scientific, but all it means is our awareness. And so we were talking about it all month long. I remember Linda, as host, was talking about her practice of washing the dishes. And when we bring our awareness to it, all of a sudden that mundane task becomes sacred. Nothing changed about the task, but our intention and our awareness to it. And so that's the gift that we're getting to this week. So if anybody watched the teaser, the global theme was asking us to consider these aspects, the mundane, the sacred, the profane, as if they were watercolor paints, which makes me think of Kay, because Kay does wonderful watercolor paintings, which you can check out in the lobby. But imagining these things, they're just different aspects of our life, different of our experience. But then it's our awareness and our spirituality, our practices, that is like the water in the brush, that we then kind of draw through it. It's our awareness that brings a little bit of the sacred into that mundane, or a little bit of the profane into the sacred, that it creates this beautiful tapestry of life, of our life experience. You know, if we spent all of our time living in the cave in meditation, it might be a sacred life, but for most people, is that what we're here to do? Are we here to be secluded and by ourselves? I'm not judging those that do, because I get it. I've had a desire to want to go do that myself, but I think some of Bill's songs kind of alluded to that too, or the message of the people that would just sometimes wish they'd just go away. But and so it's that experience. Like, how do we take all parts of it and just bring our meaning into it? So what Ernest Holmes reminds us is that we are oneness. And if you'll remember back to January, I talked about how, like, scientifically, you could step back and objectively say, without a doubt, we are one. We're one human race. We can definitely say that. And so Ernest Holmes says we are individualizations of the thing itself. So whatever we want to call it. I like God. I like the word God. I like the word spirit. But I'm good with the word universe. I'm good with the thing itself. And anybody, whatever you want to just call that thing that's bigger than ourselves. Even if it's just us. Even if it's just nature or life. We are individualizations of that. But he doesn't say, like, so when we look at our individual level, he doesn't say, like, just the sacred parts of you are an individualization. Everything else is something else. No, he's quick to say, there's nothing outside of the one thing that we are. So there's no part of us that is not part of that divine. So I see when we label something as sacred, it's just bringing our awareness to everything as the divine, as our experience of it. But it's when we recognize it that it becomes sacred. And this is individual to each of us, because what I consider sacred, you may not, and what you do, I may not. And that's okay, because that's the beauty of the diversity on this planet, is that we each have our own aspects of what we see. Now, one of my other favorite spiritual teachers, who you might not think of as a spiritual teacher, but the more I read about him and see more of his quotes, He was no doubt a spiritual teacher. So I'm going to ask for the next slide. Albert Einstein, and he says, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest. And that's what we're here doing. We are having this experience of, clearly, I am somebody separate from you. But that is just the part of the game of what we're here to experience. So then he goes on and says, it's a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison, and through compassion, to find the reality of oneness. So when we feel separate, a lot of people see that as a freedom. Like, I don't have to worry about anybody else. I get to be free and do whatever I want. But Albert Einstein is like, well, that's actually the prison. That's the opposite of freedom, because we're missing that bigger thing that is here for us when we draw into our oneness. And compassion, I think, is the key word there. Compassion is what can open us up to all aspects. So when we see that oneness within ourselves, we are reminded that all parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly, so those parts that have been wounded, those parts that have felt shame and guilt and have been traumatized, those are all part of that oneness. Ernest Holmes didn't tell us, that only focus on that one part, everything else just ignore. No, we have to appreciate all that we are. And so the next part of moving into all aspects of ourselves through this flow and watercolor painting of the mundane and the sacred is to acknowledge all parts of ourselves, especially those that we may not like. Because that's when the judgment can come in. And when we start to judge ourselves, that's where kind of things get problematic. You might remember last week I talked about when we designated something as the sacred, nothing changed about it. Like the Science of Mind text that Don used, it's just paper, print, ink, and words. To me, it connects me to the divine. So that makes it sacred for me. But to many other people, it's just a book. But when I hold it and elevate it to like, this is sacred to me, nothing changed about that book. But what did change was within me. When I designated something as sacred and I bring that sunlight of awareness that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, when I bring that awareness to it, I'm shifting myself up to that sacred, because it's the sacred within me that recognizes the sacred in something else. And that's why all aspects of ourselves are important. So now on the flip side of that, when we fall back into judgment and we say, oh, okay, we're all one except for that guy. That one over there, he's been talking smack and he is clearly not sacred, not the divine. But everybody else, we're all good. When we fall into judgment, nothing changed about him, but what changed is within me. Now all of a sudden, I've brought myself down to a level of judgment and complaint. What's in him or in that person that I don't like, I can only recognize it because it's in here. So it's compassion. So when we learn to free ourselves from judgment, suddenly we get a little less judgmental of everybody else out there. Compassion. One of my constant prayers that is always reminding me of where I want to be is to free myself from judgment. With these words, I free myself from judgment. And it's on several levels, because it begins with one, I free myself of judging myself. And that one's maybe the harder one to do. But I free myself to just say, yeah, I've made mistakes. And yes, I will make more mistakes, but I don't have to carry this shame. When I grew up, I had a very guilty complex, a shame-filled complex, and I thought that I was unworthy of love and unworthy of good things because I just carried this shame with me. So learning to let that go has opened up just wondrous living that I never thought was possible. I had always had this kind of cloud that never allowed me to step into full joy. I had a happy upbringing, a happy life, happy-go-lucky guy, friends, and many of you know my history. I partied a lot, and I thought I was living the life, but I knew throughout most of that time that I really wasn't that happy. Ups and downs, but it wasn't until I finally learned how to release that shame and it took me a while to realize that that's what it was that was causing my feelings of depression, it was a feeling of shame. Once I learned how to I don't have to be ashamed of those things because that's just my experience. It's just what I was. It's just what I did. But I can let go of feeling shame because what I do moving forward is what's important. So when I learned how to let that go, all of a sudden, new levels of joy that I never dreamt possible just began to open up. So freeing myself from judgment is what first sets the stage. When I do my prayer, I free myself from judgment. The second one is I free others from judgment. One, from my judgment, to remind myself that there but for the grace of God go I, so that I can see the people with that compassion that Albert Einstein speaks about, just seeing compassion. Yes, there are those that we're going to disagree with. And yes, there's a lot of hard stuff happening in the world right now that makes us want to judge, wants to label, and compartmentalize. But when we release that judgment, then the labels can fall aside and we can see the divine nature that shines through because that is where we open up to our greater levels of being. So instead of falling in that judgment and bringing ourselves down to that and resonating in that judgment that we have, instead we recognize that person, those people, that country, those countries, all these different things that get our attention that we want to rebel against. Rather than resonating at that lower level that's causing it, we can recognize that it's there, but then also remind ourselves that even there is the divine. So I can make that experience a tool for raising myself up into that space. So our spiritual principle for this week is we believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us, and that all people are individualizations of the one Spirit. Build your song, Why I Like It Here. That's sacred to me. Music is a key, for me, it's a bridge to get to that divine. And some words and some lyrics, when they come out, there's certain songs that instantly just transport me. That was beautiful. I'm so grateful that you're here today. That's the individualization of Spirit, showing up as Bill, reminding us, lifting us up into that level of resonating with that deeper presence. So as we recognize that, this week, a spiritual practice is mindfulness. So on the next slide, it's just that awareness. Awareness of our inner alignment and congruence in daily living. Awareness makes everything and everyone sacred. So where in our lives, where in your lives, can you bring that level of awareness to what it is that you do, to what it is that you believe, to that mundane, so that we can bring that watercolor of paint through it? Where can we have fun with bringing some of the anti-sacred nature of the profane, even profanity? Where can we bring a little of that into the mundane? And where can we swirl a little of that through the sacred? We all have this within us. So I'm going to ask Bill to come and play a little bit of music while I go into a prayer in just a moment. But the last thing with our spiritual practice of just reminding ourselves, what I call that praying without ceasing, as often and as frequently as we can, that we can bring our awareness to things that we want to elevate into that sacred space. That this is creating a vibration that we then resonate out. So the one thing that I want to leave us with for this week, and I hear several teachers talk about this, lots of contemporary teachers, lots of people that channel guides from other places, which some people are into channeling, some people are not. I give it a listen, and if the information rings true with the beliefs and what I know at a core level about the nature of the universe, I take it in. I sometimes listen to people who have had near-death experiences and bring back tales of this kind of thing. And the one thing that I hear most consistently, if this world right now is not working for you, as we talk about creating a world that works for everyone, the number one thing to do begins within. So on the last slide, if you want to see the world that works for everyone, if you want to see a better world, spending as much time as possible in whatever form of prayer that you like. And it doesn't have to be called prayer. We don't have to get hung up on any labels, and it doesn't have to follow a formula. We teach spiritual mind treatment here, where we feel like it's a very effective way of getting our consciousness into the place where it's causation. As we talked about, causation is where all world of effect begins. So we like spiritual mind treatment, but you don't have to do that. A prayer is any thought that you have. Anything that you say out loud is a form of prayer. It all creates. But of course, where we put our intention more solidly and consistently creates more of that in our subconscious, which then tends to outpicture in our world of effect. But just holding thoughts of what it is you want to see, believing that it is possible that you will see it, just that mustard seed size grain of faith, and meditate. And again, meditation doesn't have to be anything complicated. It's whatever it means to you. You can take a breath right now and call that a meditation. You can stop at the red light and say, this red light is making me a couple minutes late, or it's giving me a couple minutes to just stop and think, contemplate, imagine what is possible out there in the world. Because as we create, as we work on our causation and draw all aspects of life, how often do we stop and imagine what a world that works for everyone looks like? What does that look like? It's hard to imagine sometimes because we're bombarded with images, with news, with all these different sources of information that show us everything that's wrong in the world. And so sometimes it's hard to visualize what's right in the world, because there's plenty. There's a lot more that's right in the world than what's wrong. It's just those things that are wrong get our attention so strongly. But sometimes, as we are working on creating a world that works for everyone, as much time as you can just spend making things sacred around you, lifting yourself up to recognize it, the people around you will start to shift. As Wayne Dyer said, and Wayne Dyer was a fan of this philosophy as well, he said, as we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And it sounds like some sort of magic or voodoo, but it's true. The change happens here, but the things out there actually change. So I want to encourage us all just to remember the best thing that we can do is to hold this space, this presence, remind ourselves as frequently as we can that right now I'm present. Right now I can see the sacred in that. Why is this mirror reflecting to me the thing that wants me to judge and come down to this level? It's an opportunity. It's a mirror showing me what's in myself that I can acknowledge and then choose a higher frequency instead. That's our power, and we have that power, and we can definitely use it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into prayer and just acknowledge. That as I hear that music, right away it drops me out of my head and right into my heart space, just knowing that there is the divine all around me, and it speaks to us. So I invite you to just take a second and just hear the beautiful resonation of that guitar. It reminds me of why I like it here, is because this is a place where we get to discover and choose to live in our divine nature. We can choose to live in it or choose to ignore it. And there's no wrong answer, because it all creates and it all leads us right back to what we come from, sooner or later. So as I recognize that there is only one infinite presence, I acknowledge that each and every person that hears these words is a divine expression of the infinite. And that the sacred experience that we share together is always underlying everything that we do. Even when we're at our most oppositional, Spirit is there to remind us what we are, what we have, what we're capable of, and to give us the opportunity to choose the infinite, the divine, and the sacred on our own. So I welcome and affirm and avow that this week brings new insights, new reminders of the beauty that lies within each and every one of us, so that we can see past those places where judgment is calling us, to let it go and transform it instead into a moment of seeing the divine in one another, so that then we can respond with compassion in ways that create shift and change. I acknowledge the strength and the courageous people that have come before, who have spoken up in nonviolent ways to create lasting change. For nothing forced is ever permanent, but what has come to through the heart is where a shift in our consciousness, a change in the way that we are, that we experience one another, can take hold and remain. So I affirm and avow that blessings abound this week, that everyone is carried in that highest light, that memory, divine mind calls each one of us into moments of our own divine nature, creating more of that sacred vibration around us. So I just give thanks for it all. I give thanks for Bill Metz's music. I give thanks for everyone that's made this service possible and available. I give especially thanks to everyone who has listened to these words, who has enjoyed the music, everyone who is on their own spiritual path, seeking that higher experience that is at the core of our being. Thank you to everyone that is seeking. So with gratitude and love, I just let these words go, knowing that it's already done in the mind of God. And I affirm it is so, and you can join me by saying, "It's so it is." So it is. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, thank you. All right, it's that time of the month again where we get to announce our next volunteer of the month. Take the parking spot away from Nathaniel for his wonderful service and reward. I know. And pass it on to this next volunteer of the month. Jumps in with a positive attitude, very helpful, and just really a light, and brings a lot of information, knowledge, skills, and most importantly, heart to what we do, especially with the youth group. So Janine Mole, thank you for what you do for our center, because we are blessed because of what you do. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, and with that said, we have our wonderful greeters that we are getting ready to where we get to share our love and our abundance with the center that is shared with the world, and so many different ways that we get to share through our time, treasure, and talents, that everything that is received here is received with love and lifted up into a higher place. So what you feel good about giving is what we want. We don't want anybody to give beyond your means. We want to give what feels good from the heart, knowing that it is a circulation, that this is how the universe flows. And when we do, we flourish. So there's so many different ways to give online, our website, and of course with Lily and Phyllis here today to pass the baskets around. And with that being said, we'll enjoy a song by Bill. And, oh, we do have an affirmation. I forget the affirmation. Forgive me. So the affirmation, if you'll join me as we say this, as you take your offering in your mind. You know, some people give like on a monthly basis. However it is, just take that in your mind, in your hand, or wherever, and hold it in your heart and just say, today, I know the activity of divine abundance is at work in my life and the life of this center. I give and receive generously as I live in the flow of bountiful good. So it is.
Gathered standing as one in the presence of the power, standing where others have stood. Gladly we offer the gifts of our abundance, knowing the source of our good. Standing as one in the presence of the power, standing where others have stood. Gladly we offer the gifts of our abundance, knowing the source of our good.
Receive with gratitude everything that people shared from the core of their heart, knowing that truly, right now, this mundane and profane money is lifted up into the sacred in sacred service of the center. So in deepest gratitude for everyone that volunteers, everyone that gives, everyone that fills out a prayer request, all of it, we just give thanks knowing that it is always multiplied and spread throughout this entire world with love. And so it is. So it is. Now let Don come back.
All right, let's give it up for Reverend Chris again. Wonderful message. And as Bill takes us out with his last song, just want to invite anybody up here. If you are feeling in your heart you need a little prayer around something, the practitioners would love to pray with you. And again, please stay. Whether you brought food or not does not matter. You're welcome here to stay. We'll probably need some help setting up tables for our potluck and our community meeting.
I wasn't here for our last potluck, but I know the month before we had a pretty good flow of some people set up in the back while we got the community meeting going up here, so that by the time the food was ready, the community meeting was done and everybody was ready to eat. So wherever you feel called, if you want to help bring out, I don't know if we're setting up other tables or not. I'm not sure who's in charge because Linda has the day away today who normally manages all that. But just, anybody who wants to participate in the community meeting, please just come up here to the front and we will do that while we get up, set up in the back, and I promise we'll make it short and sweet. Okay.
Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. Tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven second-rate, hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Thanks. Thanks for letting me be here.